Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And we've got a big show for you today. We've got FA Cup semifinals. We've got NWSL regular season and some huge trade news. I'm so excited to get into this, Allie, but first and foremost, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. Do you know what's coming?
Well, if the notes are anything to go by, yes.
I was scrolling Twitter and came across a tweet from Foudies, our very own Helen Hardy's Foudies. And it's funny because I was just talking with Helen about how they were posting something about, WSL fans and what NWSL team do you support. And so I was looking at the tweet because I'd heard that it was weirdly a lot of North Carolina people, which is surprising that for some reason WSL fans like North Carolina. We can come on to that later. I don't know if you have an idea about why that is. And I saw our very own Allie commented Gotham.
Yep.
And I was like, I didn't know that. Do you claim yourself to be a Gotham fan?
It took me a while, to find a team that fit the ethos. And I'm not just a glory hunter, I promise you. I've had a Gotham t-shirt for a while. You bought it, mate.
That's true. I can confirm you've had a Gotham t-shirt from the terrible days, for sure.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it and I was like, do you know what? I love New York and New Jersey. I love the imagery of the superhero you're not allowed to put together with the team. And I like the ethos of Gotham. So yes, I would say that my NWSL team is Gotham.
What did you say? You like something you're not supposed to put with the team?
The superhero.
Oh, the
ethos.
Superhero. Okay, yeah. Are we not supposed to put Batman with the team?
Apparently not. And then when Mewis joined West Ham, that's all that West Ham's media team did was
That's so funny.
This allusion to Batman.
Literally, Lynn Williams does the bat symbol when he scores. It's not. If that's what they're trying to do, they're not doing a good job of it. Oh, man. Okay, so officially, Allie is a Gotham FC fan, and quite frankly, I'm going to take a lot of credit for them becoming a Gotham FC fan, just from how much I talk about it.
So, last week, if you listened, we talked about the documentary Copa 71, which is a fantastic documentary about the Women's World Cup in that year and the fight to get there. We did think it was available for our US fans, but Sarah's done a lot of scouring and it appears it's not available to you yet. We believe it may be coming to you in June.
Yes, through a long series of tweets and people helping me tweet at the production company that owns it. Listen, I go to the ends of the earth for you guys. Yes, it should be coming to theaters and to the US and available in June. Thank goodness, because we all want to watch it.
So, first up, we have to talk about the FA Cup semi-finals. And spoiler alert, guys, we're getting a new name on that trophy because the two finalists have never won it. One has never been in the final. So we're getting a new name on that trophy and I am so excited.
You know what's funny too? Oh, well, first of all, I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a great game. I truly think that final might be an epic final that goes down in the history books of the FA Cup. But we're talking about Manchester United, so maybe we should just get into that game first, because United, with a historic win for their club, the first time Manchester United women have ever beat Chelsea women. We're going to talk this semifinal and, of course, the Tottenham-Leicester City semifinal, but let's get into this United-Chelsea matchup first. Allie, what do you say?
Absolutely. It was wild. It was wild. This game was absolutely wild. I was actually watching it with some Man United fans, and their stress level was intense.
Manchester United took it 2-1. And before we get into it, in the game, the tactics, the United of it all, I kind of as I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, if Chelsea lose this, Chelsea will be out of contention for the FA Cup. The Conti Cup already went to Arsenal. So if we then look at just Chelsea and Emma Hayes' last season, they've got Champions League and they've got the league title left. If we kind of put Champions League out of it, I just want to look at England for a second. Because right now, when you look at the WSL standings, Arsenal are sitting comfortably in third place. They've already won a piece of hardware, the Conti Cup. City and Chelsea are battling it out right now for the league title. It is a complete toss-up who's going to take it. Both of them are out of contention for any other domestic trophies. One of them is going to finish in second place, having had an absolutely outstanding season, but with no trophies, no hardware to show for it. So how important for you, Allie? How important is hardware? Would you rather be Arsenal right now, where you're in a comfortable third, you know you've pretty much got the Champions League spot on lock, and you've got some hardware? Or would you rather be the team that finishes second, has an outstanding season, but ends up getting no domestic hardware?
Me personally, I would rather be Arsenal and have the hardware and be comfortably in third, because you've got something to show for your season. You can categorically say, you know what, we finished third, we've got a Champions League spot for at least qualifying for next season, and we've got a trophy. In terms of the team that finishes second, this is so wishy-washy, I'm aware, but it is dependent on which team it is. Because if you're Manchester City, you've got to be happy with second. When you consider where you've come from, you consider what was a mass exodus from your ranks that there's been a few seasons ago. You lost Georgia Stanway, you lost Kira Walsh, you were on the verge of possibly losing Hempo, Chloe Kelly, and everything else. Ellen White retired, Jill Scott retired. Like, you were clinging on to fourth and grateful for it. To then get second and to push Chelsea to the final day would be an amazing achievement, and that is something you can kick on from. If you're Chelsea, that is an outright failure. That is an outright failure, because you came into this season with hopes of doing the quad, and you were going to do the quadruple, the first thing since Arsenal since 2007. You were going to do this. You didn't do it in the Conti. You've crashed out at the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Let's be honest, beating Barcelona is going to be a rough asking. And then you've got to come down to winning the league. You could end up with this with nothing. And that will be an outright failure for Chelsea.
I get what you're saying. It's less wishy-washy than I think it appears at first, because you do have to take the context of the teams into account here, where for City, hey, you were vying for the title with Chelsea. That's not something that a lot of teams have been able to do in a very long time in this league. Chelsea, you're the team that people want to knock off the top. So it is a little different. I mean, I this is maybe going out on a limb here, but I still might rather be the team that comes in second, whether it's whether it's City or whether it's Chelsea, because you want to be the team that's in contention for something. Arsenal, all they want is to just make sure United don't really pass them. They need some draws, they need some wins. Okay, fine. City and Chelsea are vying for a league title right now, and for me, that's more exciting, even if you do come in second. But it's an interesting question. It's just, especially as these hardware pieces start going to different teams, Champions League is becoming all the more important for Chelsea. But let's get into it, because we're going to talk this semifinal. Chelsea took on United. As we mentioned, United took it 2-1. They are in the final for the second time in club history on the women's side. Allie, where do you even want to start with this game?
I mean, it started off, it was crazy. Let's talk about Man United, because it was literally the first minute. Chelsea defender does a very sloppy pass, which is latched onto by Leah Galton, who pings it across to Lucia Garcia, who just expertly gets it past Hampton. In the first minute, no one was expecting that. I don't think half of the Man United fans had settled into the stadium by the time that goal went in. And it caught everybody off guard, including Chelsea. It rattled them so hard, it took them a full 40 minutes to get back into the game. And they barely did.
It did. It took Chelsea a full 45 minutes to get back in the game. United were up 2-0 by the time Chelsea got their first goal. All three of these goals actually came in that first half. Lauren James put Chelsea back in it with a goal in injury time of the first half. And we went into halftime 2-1. That ends up being the final score. And then the second half, I kind of want to talk about the second half for a second, because there's only one thing in my mind to be said about United in the second half, and that's Mary Earps. That is Mary freaking Earps. Because United are not playing at Wembley if any other goalkeeper in the entire world is in net other than Mary Earps.
Yeah, she made some insane saves because if you look at it, Chelsea had 72% of the possession. They were hammering shot after shot after shot, and it was Mary Earps making. She didn't. I think James did one of her trademark outside the box rockets, and again it was Mary that pushed it away, almost destined for that top right hand corner. I do think Man United realised, you know what, the only way we're going to beat Chelsea is if we park that bus the second half. And they definitely were more defensive, were more in their own area. They did actually get a goal second half that got disallowed for offside. So they were coming forward occasionally, but they were like, you know what, this is how we're going to get points. We're going to park the bus. And sometimes that is the best way to do it, especially in a cup competition, especially when you want in the trophies. It's ugly. I think Mary said that herself. It was ugly football. It wasn't pretty. But guess what? We're going to Wembley. They're not. So...
Yeah, and they earned the right to park the bus in the second half. They went up 2-0 to Chelsea in the first half. They earned the right to be like, okay, we did the offense that we needed to do, and we're going to park this bus because we know if we keep it open, Chelsea will break us down. And I agree. I think it was ugly, but it was smart. And I mean, the stats say it all. 26 shots for Chelsea compared to United's 5. United, by the way, had 2 shots on target and 2 goals. So if that doesn't tell you what the second half looked like, I don't know what else really will. Mary Earps, I mean, just even for Mary Earps, what an outstanding performance. I don't even know how else to say that was truly one for the history books. And if it's an outstanding performance for Mary Earps, it's like out of this freaking world, right?
Absolutely. I do want to talk about Rach Williams just for a second because there was some questions from both sides of why she was in the starting lineup, because obviously she's been the super sub, she's come on, and scored, in the 90-odd minute all the time, and then did it in the 23rd minute of this game against her old club, because she's an ex-Chelsea player, lest you forget your history. She used to play for Chelsea with Tottenham in between. And again, it was an Erlatoon cross right on the bonce of Rach Williams, off-footed Hannah Hampton, and that gets them their second goal in 25 minutes. It was beautiful, and it was so good to see that someone, because in the WSL at the moment, I don't think you'll find, there's probably 2 players at the moment that are so beloved regardless of your club allegiances. One is Kim Little, and one is Rach Williams, because they are part of that old school, played pre-WSL. They were, before that, they're the old guard that played the 2 jobs to train and everything else. And to see Rach Williams getting to another FA Cup final that she has a good shot of winning was phenomenal.
I love that she got the start. I really can't stand this idea like, oh, they're a super sub and they're so good coming off the bench. Why would we start them? Because we like them coming off the bench. I think that's total BS. If you're playing that well, if you are putting goals away, if your stats are what hers are in terms of the minutes played versus goals scored, like that is efficiency, what she has in her stats and what she's been able to do. In my mind, she's fully earned a starting role. And I mean, she showed it here. She got that goal that ended up being, frankly, the winner, that second goal. Before we move on to Chelsea, because I do want to talk about Chelsea in this game, because it frankly wasn't the onslaught from Chelsea that it could have been. They didn't look like themselves. But before we get on to that, there's one play that everybody's talking about. I don't know what people were saying over there, but people over here, when that happened, everybody looked at each other and was like, are we playing American football right now? What's going on? So, of course, Allie, you want to say what we're talking about here?
We're talking about Maya Letitia, the Man United defender. Look, all right, she's done amazing things for Man United, but in this game, I would not... she was lucky to still be on the pitch.
Let's tell people what happened if they didn't see it.
So she did many things. So one of the things she did was she elbowed Maya Ramirez in the face. To try and stop
it didn't even look like an elbow, though. It truly looked like off the ball. And for my U.S. listeners listening, picture American football, wide receivers coming over the middle, and a linebacker just like cleans them out.
Yep.
Blindsidely cleans them out. That's what it looked like on the screen. The ball was over on the sideline, and this happened at like the top of the 18. Just cleaned Ramirez out. And it was almost like a Zidane headbutt, in the sense that the referee, I don't think, saw it real time, and so there couldn't be a retroactive card, which there shouldn't have been in 2006, but we can't get into that because it's men's football and it's 2006. It was insane. It was 7 a.m. and I was like wiping my eyes, like, am I seeing what I'm seeing here?
Yep. So to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets the FA look at that and she gets a retrospective ban and fine, like we're seeing with Daly after the Bristol City incident. She was very lucky that there was no VAR in that stadium, because she cannot be doing that at Wembley.
All right, but let's talk about Chelsea here, because we've talked about the second half and how it was really an onslaught of an attack from Chelsea. But I think that if I hadn't watched the game and somebody told me that it was an onslaught of an attack from Chelsea, what I'm picturing in my head isn't actually what happened, because I'm picturing the most gorgeous 1-2 touch football, creating spaces, finding little triangles, and getting beautiful opportunities. Chelsea, for me, looked slow, and they looked, frankly, without answers and out of sorts in the second half. And they're still Chelsea, so they're still able to put some opportunities, and dangerous opportunities, together. But, I mean, back to the statistics. I mentioned 26 shots, only 8 of those were on target. So despite it being Chelsea on the ball, creating opportunities, the amount of dangerous chances they really were able to create, not as many as you'd anticipate from this Chelsea side. They looked tired. They looked out of sorts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously they are playing more games than their opponents. I believe somebody created like a showing of like between, I think it was Man City and Chelsea, and it's like they get like 2 days rest here, 3 days rest here. And you're starting to see it, because Chelsea is a team, we always joke, have 4 players per position, but they have been hit with injuries and having to,
especially at that forward position.
Especially at that forward position. Like, they think they have it sorted, and then obviously Kerr does her ACL in, and then they've got Mia Fischel who does her ACL in, and then they've now got Ramirez, and so you hope that...
Yeah, and there is a point to what we've been saying about Chelsea this whole year, where especially when you're down players like they are right now, if you need to focus your attention on something, we believe that they are focusing on Champions League. And that's not an excuse for this loss, but I do think it's worth mentioning in the picture. Is this the game that Emma Hayes read the poem in the press conference? Should we talk about that?
Oh my goodness. So Emma Hayes did a Eric Cantona-esque, and for anybody who is not as old...
No idea who that is.
I was going to say, for anybody who's not as old as I am, Eric Cantona was a famous player for Man United who got banned for headbutting a fan that was goading him in the 90s. And when he was asked in a press conference why he did it, he talked about seagulls following fish and trailers, and it's become infamous. You just need to Google Eric Cantona. And basically Emma Hayes did the same thing. She was asked about it twice, and she did this poem that her son wrote about...
What was she asked about?
She was asked about the push with Jonas for the Conti Cup in this press conference for this lead up to this game, and so she just read this random poem that her son wrote as her answer. To be honest,
I don't blame her. She's like, you're asking me about the Conti Cup right now? Like, this is a press conference for the FA Cup. What are we doing right now? But back to the game. Look, I say Chelsea were out of sorts, and we have to also give the credit to Manchester United, who parked the bus well. They played a really tight core. Their lines were set well. They weren't too collapsed on top of each other. They were tight towards the middle. United knew how to park that bus well, and of course, having Mary Earps in goal certainly helps. So quickly on to the second game. I think we might spend a little less time here because maybe we just want to focus on the last 20 minutes of this game. The other semifinal that happened, Tottenham Hotspur versus Leicester City, and Tottenham are on their way to Wembley for the first time in the history of the women's team. Tottenham take it 2-1 versus Leicester City in extra time. Martha Thomas puts the winner away in the 118th minute to send Tottenham to Wembley. I mean, there's just some magic in this team. They are down. Leicester City scored in the 12th minute. Tottenham were down the entire game, and they did not equalize until the 83rd minute. And then they win in overtime? I mean, come on. If you're a Tottenham fan, you must have been out of your mind, because I certainly would have been.
Does your heart not break for Leicester, though?
Is it weird to say no?
Yes, you heartless American.
It doesn't. I'm so sorry. I just think that the better team won. My heart breaks for both teams that lost, just in the very normal way that they lost, and that sucks. But in this game specifically, I thought Tottenham were the better side, and I'm happy that they won because I thought they were the better side.
Well, they were and they weren't. So let's get into it, because I think the first, say, half was all Leicester. Leicester had a game plan and they executed it brilliantly. So Tottenham got some shots off in the first 5-10 minutes. They held their ground, they defended well, their goalkeeper made some great saves. They then get that brilliant free kick which curves under Becky Spencer to get their goal in the 12 minutes. And then they don't just defend, because 1-0 is a dangerous scoreline. It's not going to help to try and park the bus at 1-0. So they are going for it against Tottenham. Their captain Sam Tierney had a great shot that was saved by just by Becky Spencer, and they were going for it. The problem I felt was that they just didn't have the legs that Tottenham do, because they were tired, and you could see by the end of the game that by the 80th minute they'd given absolutely everything and they were clinging on. And that's when Tottenham grew. And you know what? When you look at the people that Tottenham can bring on off the bench, it's something crazy. And I want to talk about their goal scorer, and then I'll let you get some words in. But I want to talk about Naz. I want to talk about Jessica Naz, because that player is so underrated unless you're a Spurs fan. A lot of people don't really see what she can do, but she's creating for Tottenham week in, week out, whether she's on the ball, off the ball, she's drawing defenders out, and is such a young, cracking talent that's been at Tottenham for a little while and is started to really grow into that, being nurtured under their new manager. And so it was quite glorious, to be fair, for her to get that goal. She jumped on that Josie Green mistake and just booted it home to get that equaliser, and that was probably what lifted Tottenham to then get the winner.
I'm so glad you highlighted her. 23 years old. I think this is just the first that we're seeing from her. And I agree. I think unless you're somebody who watches the WSL week in and week out, unless you're a Tottenham fan, you probably haven't recognized her. Jessica Naz, oh my goodness. And that equalizer, what a moment for her with those stands erupting. I mean, I do want to give credit to Leicester City because, like you said, they were the better side in the first half and they executed their game plan very well. They got tired. They didn't have the legs for it. And I think on top of that, while they executed their game plan, they never actually, I thought, had full control of the game. It felt like Tottenham were in charge. Tottenham were running the midfield, and Leicester were kind of picking the pockets and picking their times and creating dangerous opportunities in the moments that they could. But at the end of the day, I think there's a reason Leicester City came out strongest, because Tottenham, as a side, were dominating that midfield, and they were always going to. And because of that, they were always going to be able to find opportunities throughout the entirety of the 90 minutes. And it was kind of a matter of what can Leicester put away before Tottenham get their chances. I have to say, though, Leicester City's FA Cup run, arguably better than Tottenham's up to date. Tottenham have squeezed by the seat of their freaking pants. All right. Round 4, they narrowly beat Sheffield United. Tottenham won 3-2. Sheffield United, for those who don't know, are in the second division. Tottenham beat them by a goal. Round 5, they beat Charlton Athletic by 1 goal, just 1-0. Charlton Athletic also in the WSL 2. Quarterfinals, they drew 1-1 versus City. They only won in pens. Tottenham, round after round, have flown by the seat of their pants. And then you look at Leicester City's run. Round 4, a 4-0 win. Round 5, a 6-2 win versus Birmingham City. Quarterfinals, 2-0 versus Liverpool, who, by the way, sit ahead of Tottenham in the WSL table. Like, Leicester City's run as a team have been incredibly impressive. And I guess just even saying that now I've kind of broken my own heart for them. Hadn't really thought about that.
You're right, because it would have been a fairy tale, I think, for either of these teams. I feel sad that they had to play each other, but at least we'd guaranteed that one brand new finalist was coming out of that leg. And like I said, they held on for as long as they could, but then they made a silly error they unmarked Martha Thomas. You know, you're in the dying moments of extra time before it goes to penalties, and Martha Thomas has got a free head to get that second goal. And again, I just think it was just tiredness, and they just didn't have the legs. I think it's also worth noting that Grace Clinton, who has been so pivotal to Tottenham's success and has been absolutely phenomenal for them, cannot play in the final because she's club tied, because she's only on loan from Manchester United and not a permanent signing. She can, they can apply and ask, but I doubt severely Mark Skinner's going to allow her to play against.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of wild. So Grace Clinton, United technically own her contract, right? And for United to say you may play against us in this cup final would be pretty insane. But that's huge. That is huge for Tottenham. I mean, Grace Clinton, we've talked about her already on this podcast quite a few times. She is so key for Tottenham, for their midfield, for their forward line. She is that connective piece, really, between the Beth England, between the Martha Thomas, and that midfield, between Spence and that forward line. So that's going to be really big for Tottenham. I want to just highlight one more player, this time from Leicester City, because I feel like there's plenty that we can talk about, but we haven't talked about any. I just want to say that first goal, Rantala, oh my goodness. For those who don't know, she scored the game before this in the quarterfinals, a goal that looked exactly like the one that she just put away for Leicester City. It was just one touch on that right wing. She beat Nilden with one touch and then hit a screamer with her left. And I just think a goal like that deserves a shout out. So let's give it. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
To Scotland, and the top 6 teams are battling for the 2 Champions League spots, whilst the bottom 6 are fighting for survival. In the top half, Celtic kept the pressure on league leaders Rangers by beating Glasgow City comfortably this weekend. In the bottom half, Dundee and Hamilton are tied at the bottom with 10 points apiece. Dundee are in a slightly better position due to a significantly better goal difference.
Over to Germany. Emphatic wins for both Wolfsburg and Bayern Munich this week is keeping the title race interesting. Bayern Munich remain unbeaten and are 7 points clear, whereas Wolfsburg have all but confirmed their place in Champions League next season with 41 points.
To Australia, and we have our playoff teams for this year's championships. Teams that finished 3rd to 6th in the regular season played in the elimination round this weekend. We saw Newcastle Jets take down Western United, whereas Central Coast versus Melbourne City went to penalties, which saw Central Coast take it 4-2. The semi-finals will take place on the 21st of April and the 28th of April over 2 legs.
And finally, over to Spain. España and Barcelona remain undefeated this season. What else is new? They smashed a home win 5-1 this weekend. Their closest rivals, Real Madrid, also had a convincing win over Granada to keep their hands on a Champions League space.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides research analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
So now over to the NWSL. We don't really have a game for you this week, but we will talk about a couple of points. But the huge news that came out of the NWSL that we have to talk about is the story of Maria Sanchez and the saga at the Houston dash. Multiple news reports have come out, and it's pretty much been confirmed by the club that Maria Sanchez is handed in a transfer request after signing what at the time was a record-breaking contract and fee to remain at the club.
Yeah, so this is huge for many reasons. So because of that, why don't we dive into just a bit of the backstory, who Maria Sanchez is, what's going on here, and why this is happening, and why it's such a big deal. So if you don't know, Maria Sanchez became one of the top players in Mexico during her time in La Liga MX Femenil. She was with Tigres in 2021 and then signed with the Houston Dash in 2022 after she spent a little bit of time on loan with them. And she really has been a big focal point for the team. She's become a bigger name in the NWSL. She is honestly a really fun winger to watch. And this past season, she was a restricted free agent. And Allie, do you want me to put you on the spot? You can describe what that means, can't you?
Okay, I do know this. So a restricted free agent was that the club you were with had to match any offer you were given by another club?
Yeah, so you can go to another club if they give you an offer. So let's say in this situation, I'm playing for the Seattle Reign and I'm a restricted free agent and Gotham FC offer me a contract and Seattle are like, hey, we don't want to match that. You can go. Then I can go to Gotham. But if Gotham FC offer me a contract and Seattle Reign are like, we're going to match that, then I have to stay with Seattle Reign. So she was a restricted free agent, which I think is very important here and we're going to talk about later. And she signed with Houston in December of 2023. And this brand new contract at the time was the biggest deal in NWSL history. 3 years plus a 4-year option with a total compensation of $1.5 million, including bonuses and the year option. So that's $1.5 million all encapsulated if she took that 4th year. And like I said, at the time, this was the biggest deal in NWSL history. Since then, it's been eclipsed by contracts like Mal Swanson's and Sophia Smith's. But at the time, this was a really big deal. This was Houston putting their stamp on her and saying, this is the person that we are building our franchise around. Would you agree, Allie?
Oh, 100%, because it was massive that because we talked about it being eclipsed by Sophia Smith and Mal Swanson, but those are US national team players. Like, they are, intrinsically built into the NWSL system. Whereas for Houston to say, no, we want this player that's come up from La Liga MX to be our, leader, flagship player, as it was, figurehead, was massive. And to put that much money behind it was huge.
So when news broke of this, it became clear that she had actually requested this trade before the international break happened. And the other important detail is that there is an NWSL trade window and transfer window that will both close midnight Eastern this Friday. So if she doesn't move out of Houston by then, she is going to have to wait until August when the next one opens. That's a long time to be with a team that you don't want to be with. I guess the final piece is that her contract is within the league. So if she moves to another team, that other team just absorbs the contract. That's it. She's not going to sign a new deal. The other team would just take on the contract that she signed with Houston, which is great for her because she's guaranteed this money no matter what happens. Okay, now there's more, because now there is the why. So why is this player, Maria Sanchez, who signed this massive deal with Houston, who clearly is supposed to be this franchise player that they're building the team around, that they want to make happy, why is she unhappy? Why does she want to leave?
So the why really broke with the journalist who broke the story, which is Jeff Kassouf, who wrote the article for ESPN. It's a great article. If you can get that online, we'll put it on our socials just because it's a fantastic...
It's already there.
Already there. It explains it brilliantly. So Houston has struggled to create stability within the club since it was founded as a 2014 NWSL expansion team. But the turnover has been particularly pronounced of late. There have been 5 different coaches in charge of the Dash since the start of the 2022 season, including 2 who were interims. One of those interim coaches served in the role on 2 separate occasions.
Yeah, that's really good reporting from Jeff Kassouf. I feel like he really summarized it well with that. And I think it's also important to add on, there's not only been turnover, but a lot of mismanagement and scandal. Last year, the Dash fired their head coach with 4 games remaining in his first season in charge, and the team was still in contention for a playoff berth. That was a weird firing. Last month, the Dash fired their former goalkeeper coach for having a relationship with a player, which is obviously not legal. And then they brought in this brand new head coach for this year, Fran Alonso. He previously, for 3 years, was in charge of the Celtic women's side in Scotland. And the club was really trying to at least outwardly make it clear that this is a change in terms of we're moving from instability to stability. The Houston Dash wanted to change the culture and identity, both outwardly and internally. And quite honestly, I think that this ask from Maria Sanchez makes it very clear that that hasn't happened. And I mean, that's a lot to ask of a club. We're 4 games into the regular season. So we think it's not fair for us to sit here and say like, oh, Houston haven't changed anything yet. We're 4 games in, and they're 4 games in with a new coach. So obviously there's not going to be too much of a change yet. Would you agree?
No, absolutely. You've got to wait for things to be implemented, and it, how many of these players were players that he wanted at the time? He's got to make what he's got work, and you have to give it time. And yeah, it's not been the greatest start to the NWSL season for them, but it can still pick up. I do think it is too premature to be like, well, it's the same old Houston, nothing has changed, because we don't know yet.
Yeah, but it does raise questions, and it does make you wonder what is going on. Why does Maria Sanchez want to leave? Is this the reason? Is it the instability? Is it something else? We really don't know. And I think that's where we get into the really interesting part, because the Dash, in response to all of this, have essentially said, well, she's a free agent. She made a choice, and this is where we are. So for me, based on that, I'd be really surprised if they trade her. And frankly, I would be really surprised if a club was willing to take on a contract like that for a player that they are not building a team around.
I was going to say, who's going to take that contract? Not who's not going to take her, because she is a good player and she can improve most teams that are out there, looking at you, Portland. But who is going to want to take that huge contract on? Because like you said, it's 3 years, it's multi-millions with the option for 4. I can't see many clubs wanting or having the funds to take that on.
Yeah, but that's also terrible to keep a player around that just doesn't want to be there. It's terrible for them. It's terrible for her. And I think this also raises a bigger topic around this, quote, restricted free agency. Obviously, free agency is a fantastic thing to come to the NWSL, but it had to come in this way, where there were free agents and there were restricted free agents. And that's just kind of how it had to be. I think that in the NWSL, where we're headed, the future is that there just are free agents, period. And this restricted free agency thing was just kind of our intermediary. But it does raise a question around this restricted free agency, because Houston's saying, well, this was her choice. But was she really free? Because at the end of the day, it feels like Houston were going to match any offer that any other club made to her. So she was just always going to stay with them.
I was going to say, it goes back to that question. Which club has the funds to do that? Because, so we said it was 1.5 million. So a club would have to offer 2 million and above for those 3 years in order for Houston to go, nah. And we don't even know they would have gone, nah, at 2 million. We just know that that's what she was offered, was 1.5. They could have gone up and up and up because they wanted her, as I said, that figurehead player. So she was going to be at Houston whether she liked it or not.
We'll keep everybody updated on this whole situation. Obviously, this kind of thing, it's just, I think it raises flags for everybody to look at the team and look at the organization and say, what is going on? This player that's being paid so much money to be the flagship player doesn't want to be there. And that is concerning.
So we're going to get into some games very quickly, but just to highlight, because it was a crazy weekend in the NWSL. I thought the WSL had the monopoly on crazy, but no, is the answer. It was absolutely a crazy weekend. And let's actually talk about the Houston Dash, because they took on the Washington Spirit this weekend. It didn't go very well for them. They racked up another loss. Spirit took it 3-1. Basically, the Dutch collapsed in the second half. They gave up the equaliser from Jane Campbell's terrible pass, and then conceded 2 goals in 2 minutes.
All right, we're going to continue to go around the horn here. Utah Royals versus Orlando Pride. The Pride took it 1-0, and that one goal was the 200th goal in club history. And who else but Marta put it away?
Over to the North Carolina Courage versus Portland. North Carolina took it 2-0. All I can really say about this is Portland is having a horrendous start to their season, considering how close they were to taking the title last season. It does make you wonder what's going on in Portland, to be honest, and hopefully it'll pick it up for you Thorns fans.
Yeah, I mean, only 4 games in, but out of 14 teams, Portland is sitting in 14th place with 0 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses. Over to Racing Louisville versus San Diego Wave. They drew 0-0, and a draw, get this, keeps Racing Louisville undefeated. One of 3 undefeated teams left in the league, even though Racing Louisville, their record is now 0 wins, 0 losses, but 4 draws. I also want to note, though, Kaylin Sheridan should absolutely have save of the week for San Diego Wave from this game. It was just gorgeous. Just go YouTube it, and you will not be disappointed.
To Chicago versus Angel City. It was 1-0 Angel City, which was actually an own goal. There was only 3 shots on target in this game, 2 by Angel City and 1 by Chicago. So it wasn't exactly the thriller in Manila.
Okay, I'll head over to Bay FC right now then. Bay FC versus Seattle in the last game of the weekend. Oh my goodness. Bay FC got their first home victory. They beat Seattle 3-2. But Bay FC, I feel like the story of this game is that they lost another lead. Their 3rd lead blown in 4 games. But finally this time, after blowing the lead, they were able to crawl back into it and get that W for that first win. Home win in franchise history.
And finally, to my team, Gotham drew with Kansas City Current. It was their regular season home opener and got a record crowd of 8,573. They also got their championship rings from last season. Now, Mrs. Wimmy and Sarah disagree because I have on the notes here Sarah saying that they are nice. I hate them.
What don't you like about them? They're
the
gorgeous.
thing is, I hate all of the American championship rings because they're so...
Oh, okay. Well, so it's not specific
it's
to
not
their
specifically
ring.
rings. It's just they're so gaudy and ridiculous and over the top and just so American.
They really are. Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to wear it around, so they really are. I get that. I mean, even basketball players with massive hands can't wear those around without it looking ridiculous. So it is weird, but I still think they're beautiful. When it comes to rings, that's a pretty one. Or championship rings.
Yeah, let's caveat that with championship rings. They're all right. But
yeah. All right, and that is it here for us at the Women's Soccer Show. A reminder, you can always head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/TheWoso Show for extra bonus content every week. We try to post 2 things per week. Usually it's a news in 10 and then something else that's very special.
Can we tease what we've got coming up?
Go for it.
We have got a very, very special interview that will be going up on Patreon and is coming up very shortly. I'm not going to say who, but it's somebody we've been trying to get for a little while. And I am super excited by this interview. So we're going to be chatting.
Can I give a hint?
Go on, you give a hint.
Okay, it's going to be a terrible hint. Everybody's going to be so mad at me. I can't even call this a hint. I'm going to say this. It's not Julie Foudy because we already had her on.
That is
a terrible hint. Don't put
That's
that
an
in.
awful hint.
You give a hint, Allie.
So it's somebody that has played for both North London clubs. There you go. That's a good hint. That's someone that.
That's a good one.
That was someone that should help you out. Who we've got. So yeah, she has played for both the North London clubs.
So go on, subscribe to Extra Time or Champions League for that interview and on our Patreon. And for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.